This is Glass City Humanist, a show about humanism, humanist values, by a humanist. Here is your host, Douglas Berger.
We look at the recent first meeting of President Trump's Religious Liberty Commission. And just based on the members of the commission, religious liberty isn't what it will focus on. Then we look at the proposed State of Ohio budget that was praised by a Christian nationalist lobby group for being pro-life, pro-family, and protecting children when it does none of those things.
Glass City Humanist is an outreach project of the secular humanists of Western Lake Erie, building community through compassion and reason for a better tomorrow.
On Monday, June 16th, the first Religious Liberty Commission had their first meeting, their opening meeting in Washington, D.C. The Religious Liberty Commission is a committee put together by President Trump and the Justice Department to root out part of their plans to root out anti-Christian bias in the country. And so, of course, we know that they're going to use it to flog Christian nationalism and denigrate anybody that is not Christian or doesn't believe in Jesus, etc. And that's pretty much what happened in the first meeting. The executive director of the AHA, American Humanist Association, Fish Stark, he posted some reactions in a TikTok video or a short video, and also Rachel Lazar from Americans United also attended. And believe it or not, they actually had it online and it is available on YouTube. So you can watch it at your leisure. But before, I wanted to play a couple of the clips of Fish and Rachel's comments. I want to tell you a little bit about the members of the committee. And it's not like they had a website that I could look all this stuff up. This is stuff I had to come up with. The chair of this committee is Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and we know all about Texas. Vice chair of the committee is Dr. Ben Carson. He's the failed presidential candidate. He's also extremely conservative and a Christian nationalist. Then we have Bishop Robert Barron, and I don't have too much information on him yet. Next, we have Carrie Prejean Bowler. She is a former fired beauty queen from California who was fired after making some anti-LGBTQ statement during the pageant in 2009. And what is kind of ironic about Carrie is President Trump appointed her to this committee, but in 2009, he is the one that fired her from the pageant, because at the time he owned the Miss USA pageant. And I think he still does. It says, the pageant said owner Donald Trump, who had stood by Prejean, 22, despite the uproar over her same-sex marriage remarks and racy photos, backed her dismissal. She was also had supposedly posed topless when she was 17, and those pictures got out. And then they have a quote from Trump. I told Carrie she needed to get back to work and honor her contract with the Miss California USA organization, and I gave her the opportunity to do so, Trump said in the statement. Unfortunately, it just doesn't look like that's going to happen, and I offered Keith, who's the director of the pageant at the time, my full support in making this decision. He said, Carrie is a beautiful young woman, and I wish her well as she pursues other interests. 15 years later, he appoints her to the Religious Liberty Commission because she decided to play the religious persecution card. Next on the dais is Dr. Ryan Anderson. He's a conservative Catholic who is known for writing a book that, quote, exposes the contrast between the media's sunny depiction of gender fluidity and the often sad reality of living with gender dysphoria, unquote. It's called When Harry Becomes Sally is the name of the book. It's an anti-trans book. And ironically, Dr. Ryan Anderson is not a biologist. He's not a geneticist. He is not a child psychologist. His PhD is in political philosophy. And he also spent time at the Heritage Foundation. So, that's just common thing that these transphobes tend not to be scientists. And then we have on the list Kelly Shackelford, the chief executive officer of First Liberty Institute. And that's the Christian nationalist lawyer group that sues people all the time to get special privileges for the religious. I believe they were the lawyer outfit that did the coach praying case in the Supreme Court. And they also, locally here in Northwest Ohio, they are the ones that were supporting the pastor in Bryan who was getting in trouble for housing homeless people in a building outside the zoning ordinances. Then next on the list is somebody that Lieutenant Governor Patrick said needed little introduction, Dr. Phil. Yes, the TV doctor, who is not even a real doctor. He does not have a license. And even when he was licensed to practice as a doctor, it was in psychology. It wasn't in religious liberty. It wasn't in philosophy. It wasn't in biology or anything like that. So he keeps calling himself a doctor, but he's not really a doctor. And then next on the list is Paula White, the televangelist scammer who is friends with Trump and heads up his, quote, faith, unquote, office in the White House. She famously was talking in tongues and praying for Trump to win the 2020 election. And there's a viral video of her doing that. The next on the committee is Rabbi Mir Soloveitchik. I apologize for mispronouncing the name. He is the only non-Christian member of this committee. And he is a conservative rabbi. He's an Orthodox Jew. And he's given prayers at Republican National Convention before, etc. Then next we have Allison N. Ho. She is a lawyer from Texas who has strong connections with First Liberty in the past, even though she works for a law firm called Gibson Dunn in Dallas, Texas. Next are three names of members of the committee that were not at this first meeting because they were traveling. One is Cardinal Timothy Dolan, the Archbishop of New York. According to the video, he missed his train, his train got canceled, and he had to take another one because he lives in New York. Then we have the insufferable Franklin Graham, the evangelical Christian nationalist and son of the Reverend Billy Graham. And then finally we have Eric Metakis, Metaxas. He is a radio host and author of a book, and an author of some books. His claim to fame is he is a 2020 election denier, an anti-vaxxer. He's received honorary doctorate degrees from Hillsdale College, Liberty University, Swan-A, the University of the South, Ohio Christian University, and Colorado Christian University. So that should tell you everything you need to know about Eric. So those are the people that are involved in this committee. And, first of all Christians except for the rabbi. There is no representation for any other religions. There is no representation for people with no religions. And they spent the entire time, and if you listen to some of the comments of when they're being introduced and they're making some comments, is that they forward false claims about Christianity. They looks like that they've been reading David Barton books. They just parrot some of that stuff. They talk about getting Paula White especially talks about business leaders being prosecuted for being religious, and that doesn't happen. Things like that. It's just everything you could imagine a conservative religion Christian nationalist committee with the misnomer Religious Liberty Commission. The other thing, too, was the meeting took place at the National Bible Museum, which was opened and populated by the owners of Hobby Lobby. So this is totally off the rails. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to play a couple clips. I wanted to play a clip from Fish Stark, who's the executive director of American Humanist Association, and from Rachel Lazar, who is the president of Americans United. And they're giving their impressions about this first Religious Liberty Commission meeting. And they pretty much have the same take.
Just walked out of Donald Trump's sham Religious Liberty Commission meeting at the Museum of the Bible, and I want to tell you why. This so-called Religious Liberty Commission includes 9 right-wing Christian nationalists, 1 right-wing rabbi, no representation from any of the 30% of Americans who are non-religious, but they did somehow find a place for Dr. Phil. Now, you'd expect a Religious Liberty Commission meeting would be concerned about, people of all faiths or none who are being discriminated against for practicing their religion, which nobody supports. However, most of the concerns brought up by the commission were about the fact that they just don't think America is religious enough. They think more people need to be religious. There was even a member of the commission who was decrying the fact that we no longer teach Christianity to kids in elementary schools, but she said is, quote,
not indoctrination, but formation.
There was another panelist who talked about kicking in the rotten door that keeps religion out of the public square, and another one who talked about the importance of more religious organizations providing social services rather than the government. Dr. Phil said it best. We are in an all-out culture war, and none of us can afford to be non-combatants. Their side wants to force more religion on Americans and create an America where non-religious people are second-class citizens. We believe in the original dream of the founders. As Jefferson expressed it, the ideas of men are not the object of civil government, nor under its jurisdiction. We're going to keep standing strong against Trump's fight to destroy religious liberty in America for all of us, and we need your help.
I'm standing out in front of the Bible Museum, just went to Trump's first Religious Liberty Commission meeting, wearing my American flag and Americans United pins because they go together. I wanted to talk about what I heard. I heard 3 Christian nationalist myths already this morning. The first is that we're a Christian country. There was an initial prayer that was in the name of Jesus. There was a woman actually who said, it is our duty to prefer Christians as rulers. Let me repeat that. It is our duty to prefer Christians as rulers. Really horrifying. The second myth that's still very alive with this commission is the idea that our freedom and our rights come from God. It puts religion over the Constitution. If our rights and our freedom come from God, then God gets to dictate everything. The third myth was that there is an attack on religious liberty in this country. But we know that that's not true. Everybody is free in this country to bring their faith and their religion to the public square. But what you can't do is impose or favor one set of religious views over others as the government. That's why Americans United is so important. Things will change, but we've got to work hard.
And again, that was the first segment was Fish Stark, and the second one was Rachel Lazar from Americans United for Separation of Church and State. And she is correct. She is correct. It doesn't matter. Like Jefferson said, it doesn't pick my pocket what religion you are. But if you try to force your religion on me, then there's a problem. And that's basically what they want to do. They term it as being religious liberty. Religious liberty to the Christian nationalists is that they're able to impose their religious beliefs on you, no matter what your beliefs are, even if you disagree, because it's their religious beliefs and they're going to use the power of the state to impose them on you. Most people disagree with that, and they shouldn't be able to do that, and that's what they're working on. And when they try to frame it like Christianity is being persecuted in this country, it's so far from the truth, it's not even funny. We had just this week the religious conservatives in the Ohio state legislature just introduced a bill that would outlaw abortion and IVF treatments and some contraceptions. And they're trying to give fetuses personhood. There is no rational, scientific, secular reason for that bill to exist. The only reason why that bill exists is to placate somebody's warped religious beliefs. Because it's the religious conservatives that believe that fetuses are people and that abortion is murder. Murder is a legal term, and it's defined in the criminal code. It is not a religious term, but they're turning it into a religious term. And it's just as ironic that some of the same people that want to prevent women from getting abortions and having reproductive choice are the same people who don't mind the genocide going on in Palestine, who don't mind the bombing going on in Iran, and they cheer that stuff because that plays into their Christian nationalism. The whole thing about the prophecies, the end of days thing, that plays into all of that. That's why they're happy about stuff like that. So I just wanted to mention that so-called Religious Liberty Commission. Supposedly they're going to meet again in September. We will see if they do, in fact, meet again in September. And like I said, I wanted to also inform you on who was on the committee so you know what the tone and the direction is.
For more information about the topics in this episode, including links used, please visit the episode page at glasscityhumanist.show.
At the time that I'm recording this episode, the proposed budget for the state of Ohio for the next 2 years, I think it's supposed to be 2 years, is in reconciliation right now. It's the conference committee where the Senate and the House members meet and try to hash out the final version. The proposed ones from the House and the Senate have both been very anti-community, to put it lightly, to put it succinctly. They want to cut money from public schools. They want to give more money unaccountably to private schools. Most of them are run by religious groups. They want to give special privileges to LifeWise Academy. There is at least 6 anti-LGBTQ provisions in the budget. Not to mention the fact that they shouldn't be using the budget to take away people's rights or to deal with what are so-called culture war issues like LGBT issues and transgender issues and things like that. But that's what these religious conservatives in the State House do, is they put their little religious stuff in the bill. And it's pretty obvious that it is not pro-family. It's not protecting children, and things like that. So over at the Ohio Capitol Journal, which is a independent news site here in Ohio, it's very good. You should check it out, Ohio Capitol Journal. There is a columnist by the name of Mary Lou Johannick. And for those in the Toledo area, you should remember that name. She used to be an anchor at one of the local TV stations years ago, probably a decade ago. Now she writes columns for the Ohio Capitol Journal. And she had a commentary that was published on June 17th that talks about how Christian or not Christian the proposed Ohio budget is. And the title of her essay is Christian Lobbyists Embrace Ohio Republican Budget That Guts Programs to Help the Poor and Hungry. And then it's subtitled, A Budget That Takes Resources Away from Hardworking Ohio Families to Give Handouts to the Rich is Not Pro-Family, Pro-Life, or Pro-Children. And so that alone intrigued me to read it. Basically what it is she's calling out our buddies over at the Center for Christian Virtue. These are the people that have been the direct pipeline for the gender-affirming care ban, the anti-abortion stuff, the attacks on trans people. She starts out in her essay, she says, Ohio's largest religious right lobby and permanent fixture at the Ohio State House spewed that bunk on a biblical scale in a recent online takeaway of the Ohio Senate budget passed last week. And she quotes from what they said. This is the most pro-family, pro-parent budget we've seen in years, gushed a lobbyist with the Center for Christian Virtue about a budget draft that dishes up unholy hell and hardship for countless Ohio families. It's like, Mary Lou, tell us how you really feel. That's what you're trying to say. It says here, but the CCV conveniently glossed over the slashed funding and eliminated programs part of the Ohio Senate Republicans' budget that gutted efforts to bring down infant mortality rates, provide crucial continuous health coverage to children up to age 3, improve birth and maternal health outcomes with stable housing, increase notoriously low state eligibility rates for publicly funded child care, restore the proposed $1,000 per child tax credit to give struggling low and middle income families a financial lifeline with rising rent, food, and child care costs. And it says the group's spin doctor also ignored devastating budget hits to food banks that feed millions of people in all 88 counties. It said that the operating budget before Senate and House negotiators would set food bank funding back to 2019 levels, or 23% less than what was spent this year, in a state where nearly 1 in 3 Ohioans qualify for help. And it said neither proposals are fully funding public schools, especially those in high poverty, low-performing districts. The Senate Republican budget version not only shortchanges the education of young Ohioans, it also puts them at greater personal risk with inexplicable cuts in funding for overdose prevention, lead abatement programs, pediatric cancer research, and a clean water initiative successfully improving community drinking water. So then Mary Lou gets into the crux of why the Center for Christian Virtue loves this budget. And this is the real reason why they were gushing about it. It says, but when the Center for Christian Virtue, once designated as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and I would say they're still a hate group, boasted that the Senate budget protects children, in quotes, it didn't mean from genuine threats such as drug addiction, lead poisoning, or malnutrition, but from, quote, ideological agendas, unquote, that don't align with the ideological extremes of the religious right. And then they quote from CCV's policy director. They said, from safeguarding children from obscene content in libraries to affirming the biological reality of male and female to empowering families, the Senate-approved budget puts parents back in the driver's seat, protects children from harmful agendas, and affirms foundational truths that should have never been up for debate. Top of this list of the so-called family-affirming budget provisions was the regressive and expensive flat tax proposal that would increase income inequality. Also, she points out that the budget includes more money for pregnancy resource centers. These are the fake pregnancy centers that are trying to manipulate women out of getting abortions. I don't think a lot of people know that these pregnancy resource centers get millions of Ohio tax dollars every year, and the proposed budget wants to give them more. And then finally, she ends her essay. She says, the Center for Christian Virtues embraced legislation that is not pro-family, pro-life, or pro-children in any merciful sense, but is ideologically compatible with its right-wing agenda. So high fives all around, right? No matter who gets hurt. And she pegs it. She pegs CCV pretty much. And I did also want to mention too that as I'm recording this episode, the United States Supreme Court finally chimed in on a court case involving Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care. And the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that Tennessee's law is not discriminatory against trans people. And you'll probably laugh, maybe hysterically laugh, about the reasons that they pulled out of their butts to make that determination for the majority. Their determination, this is Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the majority opinion, said that because puberty blockers and other treatments for gender dysphoria is available to children that are not trans kids, that are not getting treated for gender dysphoria, it's not discrimination. Check out Buckeye Flame. They have good coverage on this. All the major LGBT rights groups here in Ohio put out a statement condemning the ruling. And also read the dissent that was put in by some of the liberal justices. One of the comments that I saw that one of the justices made was that, and I think this might have happened during the oral arguments when they were hearing it, that Tennessee and the states that support gender-affirming care bans were making the same argument that they used to make when the states were trying to keep their anti-interracial marriage laws intact. They're saying, well, we're not banning marriage at all. People of the same race can get married. So this law that prevents black and white people from getting intermarried is not discriminatory. That's the kind of twisting that they do to try to justify their discrimination. There is currently a court case in Ohio over Ohio's gender-affirming care ban, House Bill 68 from a couple sessions ago. The Supreme Court decision in the Tennessee case is different to the Ohio case in a certain way. Ohio's the lawsuit that the ACLU filed in Ohio is challenging the Ohio ban based on the freedom of medical treatment constitutional amendment that was passed back in 2012 to spite Obamacare. That's when the right-wingers got together and passed this constitutional amendment that said that people could get medical treatment, that the state couldn't interfere at all. So that is what the ACLU in Ohio is challenging Ohio's ban on. They're not doing a 14th Amendment case as the Tennessee case was. I mean, we don't even have to be legal people. We can see that gender-affirming care bans are discriminatory. And the reason why we know this is because there is no secular, rational reason to ban gender-affirming care. There just isn't. The data, of course, the data isn't all there, but a lot of these medicines that are available have been around for years. The people that do these treatments, they're not fly-by-night, unethical doctors. A majority of them are ethical doctors, so they're not going to treat somebody that they don't feel needs to be treated. And as I've mentioned before when I've talked about this issue, you just don't show up at a doctor's office one day and say, hey, I want to be a woman or I want to be a man. There's steps that you have to go through in order to transition. And these are steps to not only protect the patient, but to protect the process, the ethics of it. And again, these gender-affirming care bans just target children, and they take away the rights of parents to support their trans kids because they're preventing parents from getting their children these treatments. So it is discrimination. It's not protecting children. What it's doing is it's protecting the straight heteronormative supremacy in the country by picking on the smallest marginal group that they believe doesn't have the power to hit back. And that is what our group is doing. This is what the secular humanists of Western Lake Erie, we support people that want to be who they want to be. We support people who love who they want to love. It is none of our business. It is none of the state's business. And a lot of these religious extremists that get these bans passed, they more than happy show up at a doctor's office to get a vasectomy or get treated for cancer, and they don't blink an eye. And this is what they're banning. They're banning medical treatment for a particular condition that people struggle with and need help with for no other reason than religious bigotry, because it fits in with their religious extremist views.
Thank you for listening. For more information about the topics in this episode, including links used, please visit the episode page at glasscityhumanist.show. Showlee can be reached at humanistswle.org. Glass City Humanist is hosted, written, and produced by Douglas Berger, and he's solely responsible for the content. Our theme music is Glass City Jam, composed using the Amplify Studio. See you next time.